I mean, if the government of the day is not willing to address this culture of impunity, what can civil society do, given that this is a very violent culture that one is running up against, that will have no qualms whatsoever about a permanent response, if I can call it that, were it to feel that it was threatened in any way. So given that violent reaction, that is a very real possibility, is there anything that civil society can do in light of the culture of impunity today that you spoke of?
Three things. I think firstly, civil society must hold the government accountable to them to deliver rule of law.
But just, sorry, Chandra, just on that point, I mean, is that just words?
No. Just on this factor, get only one small aspect of it.
Right.
There,
How?
what I'm asking is, let's get the updated firearms ordinance. What civil society? First step is get the first firearms ordinance into place and get a structure to implement. That's number one. Number two, in civil society, there's a National Small Arms Commission which was appointed, which operates out of Ministry of Defense. It has to have civil society nominees according to the thing. Get those civil society nominees nominated into it and get the government to make that body effectively function within the defined scope.
Correct. But now, is it dysfunctional, or is it still functioning, or what exactly?
Is,
because the president did appoint some people in 05, right, if I'm not
but the civil society nominations
are not
yet made.
within the larger breakdown of the 17th Amendment's implementation, is it?
No. This is
a separate.
This is a special one, arose out of Sri Lanka's commitment to the 2001 UN and 2005 review.
Right.
We have formed the commission, but it's not effectively in operation because civil society nominees are not there. Number three, I think the religious community can play a big part along with civil society. If they can get these arms to be surrendered, especially women and children can be used as the motivator to come and hand them over. Because people have some illicit arms or know where it is, they can get it surrendered to an independent place.
Are there any comparative examples in, say, I don't know, Colombia, Northern Ireland?
Comparative examples are there in Ireland. But Jayanta Dhanapala talks of a very effective example in Albania, where he led a mission, and there had been a scam, a financial scam, like the ones we have had, and the people got so angry that they just broke into the arms stores or the government and stole. Overnight, the whole country had
most weaponized.
Most weaponized issue. So he had led a team there, and how they achieved was they offered government development in exchange for these illicit weapons. Areas were offered road development, telephone connection, better hospital facilities, something in exchange for the amount of guns that they surrender. And here, with the communications being handled by the church, they had a tremendous impact. The biggest support coming from women and children in society. So I think, this is a civil society can, with the help of the provincial MPs or whoever it is, if it's not at the bigger level, at the lower level, do something.
I want to come back to that, but I see this statement by Ambassador Karyavasam in April 2008, when he was a permanent rep to the United Nations. It's a matter of public record, and I found it very interesting because nowhere in the speech does Ambassador Karyavasam suggest that small arms are an issue outside the domain of terrorism linked to a non-state actor, which is the LTTE. Their entire speech seems to suggest a monocause, which is the LTTE and the proliferation of small arms as a result of the conflict over past 3 decades and the terrorism that was a consequence of the LTTE's actions. Now, all of what you've suggested before, small arms being used for a variety of other reasons, coming from a variety of different sources, and indeed being used by those very close to the government and successive governments. It does not find expression here. Now, isn't that a problem? I mean, if we are to address it sincerely, surely we have to take into cognizance that small arms are not just a result of the LTTE.
Well, I think it's very strange that Prasad Karyavasam in his had to make this statement, because he chaired the 2006 conference, which was the 5 years after the original thing, which assessed. Now there they could not reach a consensus.
Correct. He does mention that, though.
But the directions were totally committed, and Sri Lanka is a signatory to the 2001 Commission. We have taken the follow-up steps, and now to put it only upon terrorism may be wrong, but even if you put it all on terrorism, now that terrorism is over in this country, it is time for action to round up. Why should anybody other than those who are properly licensed for whatever sporting purpose or something, who hold themselves accountable, as well as those who are authorized by the government, that is the police or the armed services, why should anybody else carry a gun? Second is, there is now new technology available whereby you can even, when you testing systems, whether a gun has been used, when and for what purpose can be used. There is technology available.
Forensic
technology, yeah. So at a licensing point, if somebody declares that he has used it or not used it, or used it for what purpose, you can introduce some type of controls that makes people accountable.
Are we ignoring the economics of this? Because I would imagine that this is a multi-million-dollar, or certainly a multi-billion rupee enterprise with deep inroads into political society as well as civil society. This is not a business enterprise, if you choose to see it in that fashion, Chandra, and with your experience, that I believe can be easily turned around or certainly wished away. Is it that the sheer immensity of the economics of it makes it difficult? Because this is not Albania, right? I mean, from what I gathered, it was a shorter period of time. Ingrained, systemic, long-term, deep inroads made. Is it a culture that is really, truly, entrenched? I don't want to sound fatalistic here, but I just want to maybe, give the audience to problematize it, to not
You're
simplify
absolutely
it.
right. But I think if you take it in three specific spheres, looking at this particular issue, valid issue you raised. Firstly, there is an international interest because of the money in it that you can only stop with effective government and intergovernmental cooperation. And I think that is a necessity. Government's achievements, if you think you are going to focus future development of this country, you are going to put resources rather than put to terrorism control into the future, the government must see the need for these porous borders to be stopped and this to be stopped. So that is, people will see. Secondly, I think as long as this gun culture or this gun kind of thing is reported in this country as things are happening, investment, development, and our good name as a place in which it's a good place to do business will suffer. So country, business, and the people will lose a potential share of world market's value addition opportunities. That's number two. Number three, we go back to the principles. Majority of our people have certain spiritual and cultural heritage. Now this is totally against that culture in which we used to solve our problems in a different way. If you want a society which looks for development based upon happiness of people, I think society must in itself commit to create that culture. So I think there is a big problem which is not easy to control. The government must take it because it's in their interest not to let a repeat of what has happened in this country for 30 years to come. But the other two are some things that civil society can do and must do.